Civil engineer.
Civil.
Yeah.
So is my dad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so I've been to Northern Water in town. Been there for
Thank you.
7 years. So I'm in the project management department, so I do like our new infrastructure.
Oh, it's a big
It's
building.
long.
No
It's
biggie.
bigger all the
So
time.
really
And I
big,
don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah.
What's happening in there?
That's
You
up
guys
to you.
building a
Sweet, right?
transformer or
I'm not gonna
something?
make it.
We've grown a lot, like, so in 7 years I've been there, we've gone from like 100 people to
Mhm.
160 or
Okay,
70.
wow, yeah,
We're bringing on like more projects,
fun
so
today,
we
man.
just have
Yeah, it was good.
more people.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel
looks
like I'm
nice.
always scratching my head though, it seems too big, right?
I
We
think
haven't
for
moved
the
in,
size
like,
of
we
the
could-
area.
yeah.
Then they exterminated.
Let's get the countdown, I think we moved into the new
You guys-
building and
Do you guys do rec
200
ball?
days or
at
something
the-
like that.
Okay,
Rec
so
center?
it's a whole separate building.
The Loveland
Well,
Rec
they're-
Center,
they
ours
built
doesn't have
two
racquetball,
buildings.
but
We built
I didn't
one
know.
the
that
Berthoud one.
they
Uh,
moved a lot of
funny
people
because
from
I gotta tell you,
campus
Mhm.
into what we
Hey,
call
that's a
like
great
our own
place.
building.
Really?
That parking
And
lot is
then, so
overflowing
everyone's in
every
there
time you
now,
go to it.
and the
Really?
main
See,
Like,
I-
we were there
is on
early,
First
and it was,
Street.
it
Oh,
was,
yeah.
They're expanding
Hmm.
that and remodeling
they
it.
have,
Oh,
they
I
have
see.
cycling classes, they have
Back in.
pool, they,
Oh, okay.
it's, I mean,
I'll be
and
in the
it's,
new building.
the average age is
Yeah.
probably,
In
you know,
200
north of
days.
65.
200 days, yeah.
It's kids, unbelievable, it's nice, it's so nice.
And if you know the
Oh, that's good to
the
know.
Jimmy Hall Reservoir.
I never heard of
project,
$6 to
you
play
hear that?
racquetball.
Yes, is that the
30
one,
years. Actually, it's
like
cheaper than
north
that.
of Collins?
Yeah, that's a different one, that's
Yeah.
ours too,
She
but
asked me
we're
if I was
building a
62
new
and I
reservoir
said, no,
just
she
west
goes, no,
of
it's
Carter
even
Lake.
cheaper.
Oh,
She's
yes.
Like
bet he
between
is.
Pinewood and Carter Lake and the port, that's the Glade.
By the time you walk out of
Oh,
it,
that's
that's how
good
you're gonna
enough.
feel.
Yeah, Chimney Rocks,
That's
yeah, we,
exactly
or Chimney
right.
Hollow.
And that's my
You had to-
Oh,
you had to
cool.
go.
We still have 2 minutes, so we're good.
I,
I really love those things.
yeah, as a climate scientist, I
It's true.
worked in a,
Jesus.
Mm.
like, resource planning with the Army Corps for a while.
We do that.
Yeah.
So we provide raw water to like 8 counties, so we have. It's not something I'm completely engaged with, but they've hired a consultant that's doing like
Before we start, I
Mhm.
again wanted to thank
looking
staff
at the
for
impacts
arranging
on
that dinner, it was
wildlife.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so
Thank you,
much.
Terry.
Very nice.
Thank you, Terry.
Really appreciate it. That was fun.
It was. Welcome to Joe.
Maybe we'll do a potluck one of these times, you
There
know,
you
just
go.
everybody brings something and have our own little pre-meeting dinners. I have about a minute.
Straight up. I never saw that clock before.
This
I've
one,
always seen that one, I never saw that one. I assume it's always been there.
yeah, it's,
Alright,
alright, so, about 30 seconds. I get to bang the gavel,
Mhm.
one of my favorite things.
radical.
We've given her too much power.
Yeah.
Too much power to give her the
Keep your
gavel.
fingers away from it.
I had a friend in an association that we were in and he was a chair. But he's a really big man, very big man, and he didn't, I don't think he knew he was on the string, he hit that gavel, and just about all of us would jump. Alright, I think we're right there, okay. Well, welcome to the December 14th, 2023 meeting of the Town of Berthoud, which will begin right now at 6 p.m. Thank you, Terry. Okay, so we've called the meeting to order. I'm Karen Anderson, I'm the current chair of the Planning Commission. I want to thank all of us for being here tonight. It doesn't look like we have any public, is there anyone on Zoom?
We do, we have 2 people.
Hello to our public on Zoom. Copies of tonight's agenda are on the table. For those of you who are here, please take one if you need one. Okay, I would ask that everyone mute their cell phones at this time.
Bless you.
The members of the Planning Commission are volunteers. Our duty is to review application materials provided, hear public testimony, hear from the applicant, and then discuss the matters before us as they comply with the land use code review procedures. Okay. And briefly, I'll mention the role of the Planning Commission. We act as an advisor to the Town Board of Trustees. We review and make recommendations on land use and code issues that pertain to the town of Berthoud. Some decisions regarding things like preliminary plats and conditional use permits are heard by both the town board and the planning commission. Some decisions like final plats rest with the planning commission. And we have staff in attendance tonight to both provide us presentations of the agenda items, answer our questions, and to work with the planning commission regarding the criteria for approval as outlined in the municipal code. We're here to listen to and carefully consider all relevant items for public hearing listed on the agenda. We only have one this evening. If you wish to speak tonight, you'll be recognized by me when you come to the lectern. Anyone who's here in the room, please provide us with your name and spell any uncommon names so that the record will accurately reflect your comments and your address. For those of you on Zoom, similar situation, although you can't come to the lectern, we would ask that you please provide us with your name and your address, and please spell anything that's uncommon so that we can make sure that everything's accurate in our minutes. Please direct your comments to members of the commission, the planning commission. You will have 3 minutes to speak. Okay, and with that, I would like for us to do the Pledge of Allegiance. It's our practice to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I'd like to call the roll. Terry, would you please call the roll?
Chairperson Anderson,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Smith.
Here.
Secretary Van Bentham.
Here.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Here.
Commissioner Semadalis,
Here.
Commissioner Wing.
Here.
All right, thank you. So let's take a look at the minutes from our October 26th meeting. Does anybody have anything they want to add or change or amend, delete?
Make a motion to accept the meeting minutes?
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, sounds like we have by acclamation approved our minutes. Okay. So with that, let's take a look at on the agenda to our first and only item. It has to do with, it's a code item tonight as opposed to a straight land use item. And we have staff here to present that item. So with that, Ann Johnson, who's our development director, will present this item.
Thank you, Chair Anderson and members of the Planning Commission. So if you'll remember, this was removed from this first or second wave of code amendments presented back in August or September, I believe, so that staff could work with our town attorney, and I believe Aaron Smith, our town attorney, is present via Zoom this evening if there are any specific questions regarding state statute and allowances. This one item is centered around marijuana stores, businesses, facilities, and just making sure that our terminology is the same as what is in state statute. We're not changing or restricting or talking about setbacks or anything like that. We're just really talking about terminology. Now, in your packets, there was a mistake that was made previously on page 4 of 6. In the suburban use, those 3 uses were listed as appropriate for the suburban zone district, and that's incorrect because in Berthoud, these types of businesses are restricted to a certain area in town that's around 2nd Street and bound by Mountain on the south. And so the suburban zone district isn't even in the area where they're allowed. So it is, it's providing a false representation that it's allowed in other zone districts, and it's not. So we want to go ahead and just correct that table. And other than that, there are no other changes just because this really is a nomenclature change being made to the code to be consistent with state statute. And with that, just for those that are here, that are in our new planning commissioners, when we discuss changes to the code, staff will give the presentation, which you just heard. Then there will be a public hearing. The chair will open it up for public testimony. Individuals can speak, and a chair indicated there are 3 minutes to speak. And then after all public testimony is received, then it will close. And then there will be discussion amongst the planning commissioners and an eventual vote. Your vote then is represented by staff to the town board of trustees. And then the town board of trustees hears the same packet of information, but with your recommendation either of approval or denial on these code changes. And again, these are the areas of change. There's just public notice provisions, updating tables, again, just to remain consistent with state statute and to remain consistent with how we currently process these types of uses. And in that table, the change is purely, this is a brand new table that we created. And so you see a lot of red lines on that table, and it's because this is a brand new table. We have to populate those cells with information that's currently in the code, and that's why it's in red line. And with that, that completes staff's presentation.
Any questions, commissioners, of the staff with regard to this code item?
I do. I have a question with respect to 30-3-113. And it's just really for my knowledge, but about halfway through there, it says it shall be unlawful to operate a retail marijuana cultivation facility or retail marijuana products manufacturing business that is not co-located at the same parcel of land as the retail marijuana store. What's the thought because you could have a retail store without the cultivation and all that. What's the thought process behind having everything and the retail store, the cultivation?
Right, so the thought process is, I believe voters approved having marijuana retail stores, and the cultivation and the production facility would go hand in hand with the retail, but they could not be independent of each other. And I believe that has to do with our licensing requirements for marijuana retail facilities. I don't believe they can be standalone in the town of Berthoud.
Okay, so it's really Berthoud specific.
Yes.
Because I would imagine if you had a manufacturing and production facility somewhere else, you would have to have that same requirement where you had to have retail with it, but apparently it's more of a Berthoud issue. Okay.
Any other questions of staff? No?
No.
Okay, with that then, thank you. We will go into the public hearing portion of our review of this item. So start the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public who would like to make a comment on this code, on these code issues, code changes? No. No one from the public? All right, then we will close the public hearing. Okay. Commissioners, any discussion about this item or any of the code changes? I know we've talked about some of this a little bit before.
So we have an area, as Ann mentioned, that's kind of blocked off where these facilities could go. But the thing that I thought was kind of odd is I know that there's locations that must meet a certain distance criteria, but there's really not a limitation of how many of these stores can be placed in that area. You know, I just think of it kind of like a Las Vegas where you have a whole bunch of these stores, and I'm kidding when I say that, but it's not a really big area. And I just didn't know if you know, the town of Berthoud would want to limit, you know, 2 of these or 3 of these or 1, I don't know. So it doesn't turn into kind of like a marijuana store haven.
Well, there, as you said, it seems somewhat limited to a particular area of town, but also the criteria for reviewing those seems fairly stringent, you know, so I think it would, if reviewing that criteria, I would think it would be really hard to have them be, there to be too many in that one particular area, but
Yeah, there's
This is
just no
possible.
limit. And I, you know, obviously, we don't want to inhibit business, but.
I think it'd be maybe self-governing. If the business isn't there, right? I mean,
Right.
then they go out of business.
I think one of the criteria is what the number, type, and availability of allowed marijuana businesses located in or near the location under consideration.
Mhm.
And it has to be, you have to document a need. I
Well,
don't know how
yeah.
you do that with these.
I don't
but-
know how you do that.
But you would have to document it.
Right. Okay.
Would that be any different than a liquor store?
I don't know. I mean, I guess that's a good question.
Mhm.
Would you document the need for another liquor store?
Right.
Maybe
But
a
that would
population
come up
growth?
in the application process.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Please.
Yes, the applicant would be required to demonstrate a need for a new location in that area, and you're right, it would be similar to a liquor store, similar to any other business, they would have to demonstrate that need.
And would something like the population growth be a factor in demonstrating need? Like you had more people, so you would need another store.
To be quite honest with you, I don't know how that need would be demonstrated. I have personally never processed a marijuana facility in my career. I would have to defer probably to our attorney and to our town clerk that does some of the regulations on these types of facilities to help me out. Erin, are you available to make a comment on that, on how need would be demonstrated?
Into who?
I can, and I know Christian has a better feel for this, how it works there in the town, but the city clerk, or the town clerk, but typically it's the needs and desires of the neighborhood. So there is usually some sort of a petition process where the applicant brings in a signed petition that he has canvassed the quote-unquote neighborhood, which is an area set by the local licensing authority. And then he brings in petitions that show that a good portion of those adult inhabitants are in favor.
So it's more neighborhood based.
Yeah,
Interesting.
Yeah, and how the local licensing authority describes or defines a neighborhood, it could be the entire town.
yeah, that's what I would think.
Thank you. I didn't know if I was allowed to speak, if I needed to be addressed by the chair. I just said, when I read this, one of the things that just struck me, and I don't know if this is really related to these changes, but there's a statement in there that each marijuana business needs to be 1,000 feet from another marijuana business. And it just seemed to me, I think we have 2 marijuana businesses in town and they're directly across the street from each other. So it seems like they would not be in compliance with this ordinance, is what.
So, right, and that is Commissioner Donnelly, that is something that's been brought up before. We're not changing the locational distances at all with this particular code amendment. And it is something that a member of the public had asked about. And so once we're done with some code amendments, we are gonna go and take a look at how those 2 businesses were located. And it could be a situation where that distance wasn't within the code, when both of those premises were originally permitted. And then later the town made a change to the code to add that distance in there.
So you're thinking it's possible they were grandfathered in?
Yeah.
Right, that the code changed after both were permitted, and it is something I will look into and just let you know how that happened.
Any other items of discussion?
So, yeah, one other question. In 30-3-113F, it says, this has to do with employees of that operation. The character, experience, and criminal history of all persons involved as management, employees, and owners, basically that they'll be reviewed. Who in the town would do that to make sure that they're in compliance and all that?
So these types of permits are processed with the town clerk. And so there is a separate licensing process that is required, and through that application process, that individual is checked.
Okay, so it's up to the employer or the store to provide that information as it
Exactly,
changes?
yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Make a motion. We can make a recommendation of approval of the town board of trustees for the proposed code amendments to section chapter 13 of the Berthoud Municipal Code as attached in the draft ordinance and attachment for the reasons outlined in the staff report.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
30 seconds. All right, with that, Terry, could you please call the roll for the vote?
Commissioner Wing,
Yes.
Commissioner Semadalis,
Yes,
Secretary Van Bentham,
Abstain.
Commissioner Donnelly,
Yes.
Vice Chair Smith,
Yes.
Chairperson Anderson.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. All right, so let's move on then in our agenda. Work by staff?
Yes, so since the last time we met, the town board of trustees have heard several of the code amendments that you all heard. One are the landscape design standards, and those were approved. The 3-mile plan, which is our growth boundary, but and for Joe, state statute says that communities should adopt a 3-mile plan every year. Probably 98% of the communities in Colorado don't, but we went ahead and did that, and it's the same as our future land use map. And then wave 3 of the code, there were some new definitions in the dark sky ordinance, elimination and refinement of the PUD section in the code, because several years ago the town eliminated PUDs, but it was insinuated that they were still allowed, but there was no process in our code, so we just went through and cleaned that up. And then the historic preservation standards, which would allow minor remodeling to be allowed by staff versus going to the Historic Preservation Commission. So those were all approved by the town board of trustees. Ton and Terry and I are looking at some field trip options for you all. And there are 2 themes that we feel as if would be good to review. And the first is expansions of historic downtown districts into residential areas as well as new construction. How do communities still keep that tight feeling of a historic downtown as it expands? And is that important? So we're gonna take a look. We as we think about where to take you, we of course want you to see a full variety of these and not just peg what we feel as if is good for Berthoud, but we want you to see a large variety of how different communities address these issues. So we will go out and we'll scout out some locations, and then we'll take you on a field trip. It might be a Saturday field trip so that we're gone for 4 hours, and at night you really can't see anything right now. And then also looking at residential development and how communities are dealing with the density and affordable housing challenges. So we're gonna take a look at those two themes. And if you think of another theme that you think you'd like to discover and explore a little bit in Berthoud, just let us know. And if over your travels over the holidays or as you're traveling in Colorado, if in the Front Range especially, if you see examples of good, bad, or even ugly of these situations in your opinion that you think would be good to take a look at, let us know. We'll go out and take a look at them. We'll plan the trip again so that it's manageable in 3 or 4 hours. Yep, so I would say Denver on up and then maybe a little west and east a little bit, but really this corridor would be good. We can't go to Hawaii to look at something in January or San Diego. So, so if you come up with ideas, yeah, sorry. Yeah, no budget for that. But other than that, I know that there is a land use case, a final plat, and you all are the final say on final plats. That's really close. So it will either come to you, we're hoping on January 11th or the 25th. And then there are others close behind it, but they're just working through some final issues. The sign code, the outside consultants have been looking at our sign code, and that will be coming to you, as well as how do we address the First Avenue corridor plan. Taking a look at our Mountain Avenue plan, right now it's in the zoning chapter, it really doesn't belong in zoning, it's more of a design thing. So we're looking at how do we shift around, how do we consolidate and make the code easier to use. So we're looking at all of those, and one thing that Terry did, and she sent a link out to all of you because there's a company called MuniCode, and MuniCode is responsible for updating several communities throughout the country's municipal codes. They are sometimes 6 months behind in updating our online codes. And so what Terry has done is she took the development code chapter, and with every round that's been approved by the town board of trustees, so there have been 3 big waves, she's gone in and created a red line version so you all can see how it has changed, so that when we come forth with land use activities, we're going to be referencing the red line version that has been approved, but it's just not published yet. And she sent a link of all of those changes to you today. Yeah, so you could just see what's going on and what's changed.
Thank you, Terry.
Regarding the sign code, would that necessitate new signage immediately, or is that a later question?
That would be later, yeah. If somebody has a sign right now and it was permitted legally, their sign can stay until it needs to change. But it would not necessitate changes immediately. And likewise, if somebody has a site plan or another development plan and their sign was approved, but they haven't constructed it yet, that would also be allowed.
Okay.
So it would sunset with everything new moving forward.
Okay. And is there any sort of almost like a comprehensive plan for town signage? Is that part of the comprehensive plan? I'm just forgetting part of
No,
it.
it's okay, it's all right. There's a lot. It's actually in our development code, and there's a sign chapter. And so that's what's being really scrubbed really well right now, because there have been a lot of cases in the past 10 years about content neutrality and Supreme Court cases where the message, the logos, things like that, anything that deal with content in a sign cannot be regulated. Communities can regulate placement, they can regulate light, they can regulate movement, they can regulate things like that, but they cannot regulate content. Our code as it's written right now there are some pockets of content that have been left behind in the code. So we're having an attorney, and Erin knows this attorney, and she will be looking at the final version of the sign code, just so that we're all on the same page and that our sign code is truly content neutral. And then we're integrating some of the Mountain Avenue overlay sign regulations into our sign code, so that it's not, well, you have to look here and you have to look here. It's all going to be in one place.
And sorry, one more question about signs, and then I'll let it go, but the the signs that the town is actually responsible for how do those get updated or approved? What is that process for that? I've just started noticing that some of the entry signs into town are looking a little worn out.
Yes, they are, and Jeremy Olinger, the deputy town administrator, is actually working on updates for all those signs. He has presented some really wonderful options. He's brought them to the town board of trustees, and we'll be adding a few locations as well. But yes, they are less than sad. And we recognize that, and he's on it.
Yeah, okay, cool.
I like that characterization,
Yeah. I'm
characterization,
glad
less than
Abigail
said.
brought that up.
Yeah.
Let me ask a
Go ahead.
question about something about digital records. I know that you've been working on digitizing the old records. How are we doing with that?
It's coming along. It's a process. But I'm hopeful to get it done by the end of next year. So it's an extensive process.
Oh, I'll bet.
Yeah,
Probably a lot of old paper records.
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of interesting old paperwork.
Oh, jeez.
So it involves Terry reviewing the files. She scans and then she does an audit to make sure what she scanned, it's not too crooked and you can see it. And then Ton is then doing a second audit. And then once that happens, then the files can be destroyed according to our records retention policies, and just getting rid of, again, probably hundreds of thousands of pages of paper.
I want to make one announcement. I'm sorry,
No,
really
go
quick
ahead.
before I forget.
Go ahead.
Wanted to not forget to announce to you, and you probably saw it in the newspaper today, that we will have a new commissioner. His name is Mark Hoffmans. So he will start with us beginning our next meeting. Uh-oh, telling us time to go.
What are you doing back there? That's
So just want to make sure you're aware.
cool.
Town board
Start-
did
He'll start at our
approve.
next meeting?
Yeah, because the
Great.
town board approved him on Tuesday night. So,
And is our head count usually 7?
yes.
So I have a question about the signs. So when you're coming in from Mountain, whatever highway that's called also, you hit a sign that says, city limits are entering the town of Berthoud, whatever it says. So, but as we looked at the 3-mile plan and we know we've got land going farther out, what's the definitive rule around where that sign goes? Is the town of Berthoud doesn't go any farther east?
So the town, we would put a welcome to Berthoud sign when it's at our municipal limits. So if anyone would annex further north or south, we could move our welcome sign to our corporate boundary.
Okay,
But we don't do it based on our future growth, we do it on our real boundary.
so our real boundary doesn't go past where that sign currently is?
I believe so.
It's either future or unincorporated Berthoud or something?
Yeah, unincorporated Larimer County, and we just put our sign where our corporate limits are.
Okay. A couple other points just on.
Go ahead.
And you periodically will update us on what the Board of Trustees has approved on what we've already approved. Could we make that a little more formal, or if you do this already, that's fine, I'm just not aware of it, to where we know all of the things that we've put forward, what was their status? Cause I think there's been a few, I believe, where maybe they haven't gone the same way we voted, so I would just know if we could do that at this meeting, just, hey, the Board of Trustees did actually approve what you recommended.
So far, everything has been approved as you've recommended.
Okay.
The only thing that has not been approved is the town trustees want more exploring on the use of containers.
Okay, I
And so
remember
they
that, yep.
removed that from the wave
Yep.
3,
And
but that's
I'm
the
not,
only
I'm not
thing.
asking so much what they have done, I'm asking, could we just formally, anything that we approve, we come back to this body and just say, yes, that was approved? And again, if you're already doing that, that's fine. I
Yep,
just
during
want,
the staff discussion, I'm letting you know. And
Okay.
anything that you've approved, I'm letting you know during this discussion time what the town trustees.
perfect, perfect. And then the other thing is, I was somewhat critical of the bike park, because I just couldn't believe anybody would actually use that thing. I don't think I could have been more wrong. I mean, that thing is packed,
That
that
is
parking lot is
crazy.
full,
That's great.
and I drive by there all the time, and you know, I think when somebody was talking about it, they said it's kind of a regional draw, and it seems to be, there's it's getting some really, really good, and I believe a path goes also through that, doesn't it? A bike path or walking path, whatever. So anyhow, I just wanted to comment, I was surprised, but it's getting some pretty good use.
And it has wonderful options for skilled and non-skilled bikers. It has a free area in the middle without jumps and things, but it's a very nicely designed
Yep.
park and it is a regional attraction.
If you ever wanna open it up to motorcycle, dirt bikes, let me know, and I'll go visit it.
Yeah, I was really surprised. I'm surprised we don't have like a little, place to get some snacks and stuff like that there, because boy, that parking lot is full.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
So somebody who wanted to put a food truck there, they would just have to
Get a
come to the town and get a permit for that?
I believe so.
That'd be cool.
Might be a good opportunity for an entrepreneur.
There you go. Just a hot dog stand, right?
There you go.
What do you market to people who use the bike park? What type of food?
Probably
Yeah.
handheld.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Easy,
Like
easy
corn dogs,
handheld.
maybe?
Or drinks too, right?
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah, a little Red Bull and.
Red Bull. Although that could be hazardous.
Yeah, there you go.
Be a problem.
So Anne, are you expecting it'll be a busy spring for the planning commission? Do we have more code changes coming up in addition to developments?
We will have some additional code changes. Ton is working on the short-term rental code, and that will come before you. We're working on the containers as storage code, and that will come to you. We're working on, of course, the sign code. And I counted, I think we have 20 different land use applications that are in process. And either they're change of zones, neighborhood master plans, preliminary plats, or final plats. No site plans which are administratively approved, and no special use permits yet. But we are catching wind that there is development that has a lot of interest. Once we can get the final plat recorded, then there are site plans for individual lots, for commercial lots that are coming behind. So that's good. But again, I think it could be a busy spring, but I thought it was going to be a really busy fall. It was just busy with code changes for you.
Good time to get those out of the way.
We approved a very big, I think it's the largest one that's ever approved, that's south of Mountain View. And it was a big parcel of farmer, I think, one.
Oh, yeah.
Do you-
That's coming back.
Yeah, it'll come back for the preliminary plat.
Oh, okay, so that wasn't finally approved, the final wasn't done?
We did the neighborhood plan.
Okay,
And then we should be seeing it's moving faster, probably than what we think, but
that's good.
we should be seeing that one, wouldn't you say in a few months, or seeing the preliminary plat?
Are you allowed to tell us?
Yeah, it's out for its current first review, essentially with our referral agencies. So there's gonna be likely other submittals. So
Which agencies did you say?
our referral agencies.
So the school district, the fire district,
Okay.
water, sewer, utilities.
So a couple of months.
And
Okay.
we know that the referral agencies have already seen the neighborhood plan, right? So now they're seeing the preliminary plat. All right.
I don't
So it's
know.
not like they're totally unfamiliar with it, is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, so preliminary plat includes like grading, drainage, preliminary grading, drainage, preliminary utility locations, a more formal traffic impact study, more formal traffic routes, trails, lot lines. It's that, you know, that next step up.
I have a micro question about a neighborhood. So, in my neighborhood, there's, all the driveways have a pretty aggressive curb, right? It's rounded, but it's, if you have a car that sits low, you can easily hit the bottom of your car. Some neighbors have decided to bust out the cement and make it smooth, so they just drive in and they don't have to go over the bump. I'm curious about that. How, you know, is there something that says, no, this is the design and this is the design, or people are able, and, cause I think that falls on the city, cause it's,
Well, that's a great
town,
question,
I
and
guess,
that would
maybe.
be our town engineer and some of those standards, so I'll ask and I'll bring
Okay.
that back to you.
Thank you, I would
Uh-huh.
let you know on that.
So if staff doesn't have anything, other things to report,
Nope.
do any of the commissioners have anything they wanna report or anything else to discuss?
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then have happy holidays, enjoy your family and your friends,
Do we need a motion to close?
time off. We can move to adjourn, but we don't have to, you know,
Okay.
under Robert's rules.
Okay,
So you can make a motion to adjourn it, and someone can second it, and then you're done, so.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
All right,
Happy holidays, everyone.
yes, have a wonderful holiday.
Nice dinner with everybody.
Yes,